no man has ever beaten me.
I recently watched the film Nuremberg, starring Russell Crowe as the high-ranking Nazi Hermann Göring, and that brought some questions to my mind. Was his portrayal of Göring actually good? And I mean accent-wise, because he's a great actor, undoubtedly. For me, he should have won for LA Confidential, but he wasn't even nominated. And he should have won also for A Beautiful Mind, where he didn't win. He won for Gladiator, and for me, that year, the Oscar should have gone to Tom Hanks for Castaway, which is mind-blowing, so moving. Enough with that. Welcome to Not Another Greek History Podcast, the podcast that aims to be exactly what it says. I'm your host, Onofrios Dovlepis, and together we'll discover the not-so-frequently told stories of Greece's history that will change the way you view things forever. So let's get to what the accent of Hermann Göring actually was like. You can see that I'm doing this German accent, by the way, because I have studied German, and also what the accent of Hitler was. It's really interesting that if you have studied German, and if you watch them, if you listen to them speak, it would not be what you expect, I think. So the distinct delivery of Hitler and Göring reflected their class and regional backgrounds within the German-speaking world. Hitler was born in Austria, not in Germany, in case you didn't know, near the Bavarian border, and that gave him a native Austro-Bavarian dialect. Bavaria would be the region of Munich. Hitler did a lot of training. He practiced quite a lot. I would say he even practiced or trained like an actor, in a way. While he spoke mostly standard German, which is Hochdeutsch, that's High German, in public, his speech had a distinct Southern German, Bavarian coloring, so it was kind of provincial, let's say, in a way. At least for me, that's what it sounds like.
Du meine Arbeit für richtig hältst, ob du glaubst, dass ich fleißig gewesen bin, dass ich gearbeitet habe, dass ich mich in diesen Jahren für dich eingesetzt habe, dass ich anständig meine Zeit verwendet habe im Dienste meines Volkes. Gib du jetzt deine Stimme ab. Wenn ja, dann tritt für mich ein, so wie ich für dich eingetreten bin.
What about Göring now? His speech was much closer to the formal, educated, standard German of the North, often possessing a confident, clear, and somewhat aristocratic tone which lacked the original sound of Hitler's delivery. Watching documentaries about them and watching the movie and all that, a question finally hit me as well. Another question hit me. What does the surnames actually mean? Hitler probably comes from the German word Hütte, hut, which of course we have in English because English is mainly a Germanic language. So that would mean someone who lives in a hut. Or it could be from hüten, that's a verb, which means to guard. Göring now, Göring. Probably it comes from the Germanic word geri, which is spear, or maybe even the Slavic word gora, which means mountain. What about their families now? The families of both Hitler and Göring have tried to end or distance themselves from the legacy of their infamous relatives. Hitler didn't have any children, so there's no direct descendant. His surviving descendants would be relatives who come from his half-siblings. His great-nephews include the three Stuart Houston brothers, formerly known as Hitler, in the United States, and they have strongly rejected, of course, the connection. According to reports, the living great-nephews have made a personal decision to not get married or have children in order to ensure the end of Hitler's bloodline. What about Hermann Göring? Göring had one daughter, Edda, who is portrayed in the film, and she plays piano, and the psychiatrist really connects to her, and he visits her often. She remained loyal to his memory until her death in 2018. She never married and had no children. Göring also had a younger brother, Albert, who was openly anti-Nazi. He famously used his family connection and influence in order to help many Jewish people and political prisoners from the regime, and that was something which was against him in post-war Germany. Other distant relatives, of course, have gone to extraordinary lengths to reject the legacy, with some reportedly even choosing sterilization to end the Göring lineage.
Die Anklagebehörde hat in ihren Schlussplädoyers die Verteidigung und ihre Beweisführung als völlig wertlos behandelt. Die unter Eid gemachten Ausführungen der Angeklagten wurden von ihr dort als absolut wahr angenommen, wo diese zur Stützung der Anklage dienen konnten.
So this detailed look into the accents, surnames, and family histories of Hitler and Göring, especially Göring's role and legacy, leads directly to the core subject of the trials that sought to hold the Nazi regime accountable, the Nuremberg trials, which of course the movie Nuremberg is about. The movie focuses heavily on the psychological tension between Göring and the US Army psychiatrist tasked with evaluating the captured Nazi leaders. It is based on the book The Nazi and the Psychiatrist by Jack L. High. Being an actor myself, of course, I focused a lot on the performances, especially on the very challenging task that Russell Crowe was faced with. Crowe's portrayal is seen as a masterful acting performance that successfully captures the manipulative, intelligent, and unsettling personality of the historical Göring.
He's highly intelligent, charming, and a narcissist.
However, his command of the specific German accent is used by many as the weakest point of the performance. That, of course, is a common difficulty when actors tackle such precise linguistic roles, and you can tell that it's difficult even for me. This is kind of my, let's say, natural accent, because I have been raised watching a lot of American TV shows, but I do make a huge effort at the same time. So when Crowe speaks lines in German, some native speakers find the accent to be thick and sometimes not quite convincing.
I am a prisoner because you won and we lost.
Not because you are morally superior.
I kind of thought so too, but although, as I told you, I have studied German, I'm not an expert. That's what made me look into this. And I was very surprised, as I told you, to realize that even Hitler's accent was not what I expected, and it wasn't the accent that I had been taught in school. Both of these accents sound, as I said earlier, more provincial to me. And they don't use the R sound so much. They use an R, which even sounds more like the Greek R. So a defeated, destroyed Germany serves as the backdrop for the International Military Tribunal. And that was the first major international war crimes trial in history. It was unprecedented. This is mind-blowing.
It can't be done. There's no international law to base the charges on.
The Nuremberg trials were focused only on the German leadership. The 1945-46 tribunal indicted 22 of the most important surviving leaders of Nazi Germany. Hitler, of course, was not alive anymore. The primary Axis enemies, Italy, Japan, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, and others, were generally not tried at Nuremberg. Instead, Japanese leaders were tried separately by an international military tribunal for the Far East in Tokyo. War crimes committed by Italian, Bulgarian, and other Axis nations were handled in trials conducted by their respective countries after the war or by Allied military courts in occupied territories. But generally the one trial that is known worldwide is the one that was held against the Nazis. The movie focuses a lot on the concentration camps and the Jewish Holocaust. Speaking of Jewish people, by the way, I am planning on doing 2 episodes because also we have Hanukkah coming up, which has actually a connection to ancient Greece. And also I'm going to do an episode about the Jewish people of Greece and what happened to them during World War II and their history with Greece in general. So stay tuned for those episodes as well. The director of the film, James Vanderbilt, obviously is a descendant of the famous American family. He's behind some of the recent Scream movies as well as the 7th one, which is coming up in a few months, and I can't wait. Neve Campbell is back. I can't believe they even made a movie without her. That was sacrilege. Oh, and by the way, I even have an episode about Scream and its connection to ancient Greece. Because yes, even Scream has a connection to ancient Greece, believe it or not. Listen to find out. And I recently also did another short episode about World War II in Greece because October 28th was the day when the war was declared on Greece by Italy. And there will be at some point a much longer episode really documenting what happened during World War II in Greece. The narrative of the Nuremberg trials and its subsequent portrayal in film centers on the big four allies, the united, let's say, countries, the United States, the United Kingdom, the United Soviet Union, and France, the one that was not united.
The governments of Russia, France, Great Britain, and our United States will put these men on trial for their lives.
But this focus can obscure the immense cost paid by smaller allied nations like Greece, where your host is from. It is a striking contrast. The USA, of course, was a key driver of the trial, fought the war mostly overseas. Of course, they had casualties, and of course they contributed immensely to the outcome of the war. But the country itself never faced the horrors of occupation, and certainly never saw a Nazi flag at a landmark, like, let's say, the Statue of Liberty or the White House. Greece, by contrast, endured a brutal Axis occupation by German, Italian, and Bulgarian forces. 3 countries occupied Greece. The swastika was flown over the Acropolis in Athens from 1941 to 1944. The country experienced mass starvation, extreme infrastructure destruction, the near total extermination of its Jewish community, and over 1,000 villages were burned down. At the trial back then, there was the hostages trial, case number 7, which had to do with Greece. Some high-ranking Wehrmacht generals were charged with ordering the murder of hundreds of thousands of civilians. It was a brutal form of collective punishment which devastated numerous Greek villages, such as the massacre at Kalavrita. That's one of the best known ones. And there's even a movie about it, Kalavrita 1943. The economic aspect now is perhaps the most painful point of historical neglect. Greece received insufficient war reparations from Germany, if anything. Speaking of money, the film Nuremberg, which of course was the reason why I'm even doing all of this, was released on November 7th, 2025, and by December 1st, it had grossed $15 million. So it's not doing that great, unfortunately. The trials, by the way, started on November 20th, 1945, so the movie was released exactly 80 years and 13 days later. The whole procedure lasted almost a year. So while an agreement was made in 1960 and resulted in some payment for victims of Nazi terror, Germany has long considered the issue legally and politically settled, especially since the reunification of Germany in 1990. Greece's claims for full compensation for catastrophic infrastructure damage, war crimes, and the repayment of a massive forced loan extracted by the Nazi occupation government remain largely unfulfilled. And it is a contentious point in diplomatic relations to this day. Greece still asks for reparations. Greece still expects some kind of justice. In essence, while Nuremberg trials brought a sense of legal justice to the world and held German leaders accountable, the economic and historical justice for a nation like Greece, which suffered occupation and profound destruction, remains an incomplete chapter of World War II history. And unfortunately, this will never be settled. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share. Until next time, this is Onofrios Dovletis signing off from Not Another Greek History Podcast.